If poverty persists in America, it is not for lack of resources.
Poverty is a widespread issue that affects over 7.5 million people in California alone. In Simi Valley, like much of Southern California, the rise in the cost of living is changing the income demographics of our neighborhood. High-end master plan communities and former city dwellers are replacing the middle and lower class. But what of those left in the dust? These changing statistics of income and housing prices have brought up questions over the effectiveness of poverty resource allocation in Simi Valley. Many residents are concerned that they will be priced out of Simi and that gentrification will create more poverty and a greater income divide. Further, wages have remained stagnant for decades while costs continue to rise. It is easy to argue that either the government or community-based charities should serve the impoverished, but the best solution for Simi Valley is less black and white.
Welcome to Simi Valley, located in sunny Southern California in the outskirts of Los Angeles, the proud home of 31,000 families and dozens of scenic parks, with high-achieving schools dotting each neighborhood. Lines of identical homes dust the hillsides and provide sweeping views of the valley floor for wealthy residents from neighboring Los Angeles.
Yet, Simi Valley faces a growing crisis as former residents can no longer afford to live there, and homelessness continues to spread to higher and higher levels. The poverty rate in Simi Valley is currently 6.2%, far below the national average. However, this number does not tell the complete story. The federal poverty line for the United States is $12,500 for an individual and just shy of $25,000 for a family of 4. This means that in Simi Valley alone, over 8,000 people live below a federally determined standard of sustainable living. However, the entire reality of the issue is revealed in a study conducted by the Economic Policy Institute. According to this EPI study, the same family of 4 with 2 adults and 2 dependents living in Los Angeles County requires an annual income of $92,000 to meet all of its living expenses, 4 times higher than the poverty line. This skyrocketing cost of living in California places thousands of additional families at risk for financial ruin.
Within suburban societies, it is often the most valuable members who suffer from financial disadvantages. In Simi Valley, the largest portion of individuals applying for assistance are teachers, nurses, families with mentally disabled dependents, single mothers, and the elderly. This growing concern affecting the heart of our workforce begs the question, what is being done to address suburban poverty? To answer this question in our own community, we spoke to Eric Chen, urban planner for the city of Simi Valley. According to Chen, the county requires individuals who live below the poverty line to pay 40% of their income towards their housing, while the rest is paid through grants awarded to local governments. The city of Simi Valley also has approximately 1,200 affordable housing units, but this still leaves dozens of families who live at or near the poverty line struggling to find financially secure housing. We also had the opportunity to speak with the mayor of Simi Valley, Keith Mashburn. Previously a member of the city council, Mayor Mashburn is well acquainted with the local government and shared with us recent developments which have been made in addressing the impoverished citizens of Simi Valley.
We have programs here in Simi Valley. We have the Samaritan Center, which we help support as a city. Samaritan Center is a place where a homeless person can go and get all sorts of direction, counseling, and be directed to opportunities that, whether it be city, county, state, federal, and they're guided on how to get that help. And along with the everyday needs such as eating, showers, and mail service, that type of thing is available to them. That's just one of the things that the city contributes to help these people.
main barriers to effectively address poverty is the social stigma around the topic. Many people have a certain image of what impoverished people look like and the problems they encounter. This image is promoted and confirmed by modern and historical media, portraying those in poverty as having loose morals, flaws of character, or even as being deserving of their situation in life. Many people do not experience poverty firsthand, so their perception is molded by what they see, both in real life and in media. Most popular media portrays stereotypical or unrealistic versions of poverty, so people tend not to have an accurate view of the lives of those who are affected by poverty. The real-world effects of this stigma perpetuate stereotypes that lead to profiling and injustice, as well as decreased support for programs that give aid to the homeless and the poor. This includes both private and tax-funded government programs, as the lack of public support for stigmatized issues lead to the programs being underfunded and the tax dollars being used instead for issues that have more public backing. Underfunding is both a cause and effect of the stigma around poverty. Obviously, a lack of public funding would increase the problems faced by people in poverty, but those problems would also further increase the stigma around the issue. A part of the reason for the neglect of suburban poverty is due to its less outwardly visual nature. Elizabeth Kneebone is the author of the book Confronting Suburban Poverty in America.
Poverty in these kinds of communities can be hidden. It can be harder to identify or even understand the extent to which need has grown because it may not be easily visible.
A major consequence of the negative stigma surrounding poverty is the difficulty for the impoverished to locate jobs. In the book Evicted, Princeton sociologist Matthew Desmond recounts the struggle of Scott, a former nurse. Initially a successful medical professional in the outskirts of Milwaukee, Scott's life quickly deteriorated as Scott began to struggle with prescription opioid addiction. The addiction led to the loss of his job, home, and almost his life. After beginning a tedious journey towards recovery, finding a job was extremely difficult. This drug abuse spiraled his economic state into poverty, which made his attempt at recovering his former nursing job nearly impossible. Scott is like many impoverished citizens of Simi Valley, which, like Milwaukee, also suffers from high rates of opioid addiction over the last decade. The negative attitudes that many residents of Simi Valley possess in relation to drug abuse and poverty makes it even more difficult for the already financially struggling families and individuals to find employment, worsening their situation.
In Simi Valley, this resistance to development for underprivileged individuals is apparent. In our conversation with Eric Chen, he used the term NIMBY, not in my backyard, to express the citizens' objections to this development. According to Chen, NIMBYism could be a result of an individual's fear of change and/or misinformation. Many residents object to the expansion of resources that could alleviate poverty in Simi Valley because they believe it will be dangerous or disadvantageous for them, a sentiment which is often perpetuated by the spread of fake news. We asked Mayor Mashburn to respond to the resistance towards the construction of affordable housing within the city.
The natural question was, why'd you come all the way to see me? We've pretty much built out our city, but we can't reach out any. So what we have to do is push in and go up, which is high density, and which is what so many people that live out here was trying to get away from when they left the LA area. There's a lot of NIMBY, not in my backyard, and I think that's a lot of what people are afraid of.
However, there is a growing change to this stigma, and it is coming from the youngest members of our society. Through our own research of Simi Valley High School students, 88% of respondents believe that the local government should have an increased focus on combating poverty. Furthermore, 65% of respondents believe that it was the responsibility of the government to alleviate poverty in Simi Valley. This represents a significant difference from the beliefs held by the older population of our city, and hopefully a shift away from the toxic NIMBYism of decades past.
While there are no easy solutions to the issue of poverty, education and information can help turn the tide of the destitute in Simi Valley. With informative programs, the stigmas and misinformation associated with poverty may be lifted. Our community and other suburban towns across America often see the impoverished as beyond help and deserving of their situation. However, reality is not so bleak. It is the responsibility of the next generation of Americans to uplift their fellow citizens to welcome a brighter tomorrow. Mayor Mashburn concurs.
Young adults like yourselves getting involved And through our youth council, coming to city council meetings, or just becoming a member of a service club and going out and doing something for the underprivileged, will educate you as to the true needs and of what can be done. And there are plenty of us that have the time and abilities to give that help. And I think once you do it, the rewards are plentiful.
Through our involvement in the community, the next generation of Simi Valley citizens can step up and battle the systemic issues that sustain poverty. Even on a larger scale, international communities can join together and alleviate poverty across the globe. We must not turn a blind eye to the situations of our fellow citizens. So, what will you do?